Hi guys, this is Mrs. Poel. It's so nice to see you even though we're not actually seeing you in the classroom, which I miss very much. I miss seeing your beautiful faces and your beautiful artwork, but we get to do art online now. So every week I will send you a video on how to do something or how to think creatively, and we'll work on those together. And remember that you can always connect to the check-in time for art to show your work, or you can email me your work, or you can just come chat with me during the check-in time too. So I'm excited, very excited to connect with you guys again. So today our goal is actually not to really create art, which we're going to do a little bit too, but I want to know what kind of art materials you have at your house. So I have an art scavenger hunt ready for you, and I will link the actual scavenger hunt in the description box below so you can access that. And it's a little survey where you're going to go around the house and find those art materials and supplies and tell me which ones you have. That way when I design my lessons starting next week, I can make sure that I try to use the materials that you have at your house. Now don't worry if you don't have a lot of those materials though, because I'm going to keep these lessons very open-ended. Open-ended means that you can do it in many different ways. Like you can maybe do a drawing, you can do a painting, you can build something out of recyclables. That is going to be all up to you, and we'll get into that next week a little bit more. So again, don't worry if you don't have these. You don't have to go buy them. I just want to know what you guys have today. So let's get started. So this is what we're going to do first. This is going to be kind of like an unboxing video type of situation that you might see on YouTube sometimes, where I'm going to go through the box that I brought from school to kind of show you what types of materials I might use. So just pay attention to what kind of stuff I might use. Again, you don't have to have all of these or even any of them. It's going to be very open-ended, but I just want to kind of show you examples of the types of things that I'm looking for your scavenger hunt. So over here, I have tempera paint. Any kind of liquid paint would work for this. So it could be tempera paint, it could be acrylic paint, any type of paint that you have would be just fine. I have palettes. As you know, we use these in the classrooms a lot. But if you don't have anything like this, any scrap piece of paper or a scrap piece of plastic would work just fine. So I have all of these primary colors and secondary colors and our neutral colors, but remember that you can mix your own paint, so don't worry if you don't have all of the colors. For paint brushes, I just brought a little bit of each of the kinds we use in the classroom: flat brushes, round brushes. Again, whatever you have is fine. Little pieces of sponges are really nice for doing certain types of projects. So that's the tempera paint. So here I have some yarn. We might be doing some weaving or some type of sculpture. I don't know yet. We're going to see what people have at their house. We have some fabric. Any type of fabric or fabric scraps would do. Thread and needles if you have them. Maybe you could even do some sewing. Again, these are going to be up to you. So if you don't have them, don't worry. Sharpie markers or any type of permanent markers. We have crayons. Any type is fine. I have some Play-Doh and some clay tools. I have some different fun paintbrushes here. Some of you might have these at your house. Again, here's some needles for sewing. Oh, and look, I brought these little artist dolls too. Maybe we'll have some introductions of these artists for our lessons next week too. Some colored pencils. Oh, and look, I have a little husky pup. So cute. More artists. Any types of pencils would do. Pencil sharpener. It doesn't have to be a fancy one like this. The small ones work just fine. Tape if you're planning on doing something with sculpture or building. I have markers. I have a bunch of colors, but you don't need all of the colors. I have a sketchbook. This is just a blank sketchbook. But if you have something that you like to keep your work in, great. If not, you can just use loose paper too. Stapler for building. I have a hot glue gun, which is especially for the older kids. If you want to use these with your parents, that might be kind of fun. Oil pastels, really nice for drawing and blending. Have some Scotch tape. More clay tools. Oh, and some random objects like these. Like these are little shape slinkies. These will be fun if you're planning on doing some stamp art. You can just dip this in different kinds of paint and you can stamp different shapes. So you don't always have to have art materials that you buy at the store. You can really use anything around your house. Watercolor paint. Now this is also tempera paint, the same kind of paint I showed you earlier, but this is an example of how you can put the paint in different containers. Like this is an ice cube tray. These are really good for keeping the colors separate, and there's a lid for that. If you have something like that, great. If not, again, just any scrap paper or any container works just fine. Erasers. Any erasers are fine. They have some cutting and gluing tools here. Stick glue is good for flat or thin materials. Bottle glue is really good for if you're building something that needs a little bit more strength. Bigger scissors, if you're gonna plan on cutting something bigger, make sure that you are with an adult or getting help. Regular smaller scissors, a craft saw. 3rd and 4th graders learn how to use these to cut cardboard pieces. Again, if you're going to use something sharp like this, make sure you're with an adult. And here is a pin cushion for if you're planning on doing any sewing. So that is what I have in my box. Oh, and I have some paper. So here's the type of papers I have. You can use regular copy paper, like if you use in the printer. You can have bigger drawing paper if you have them, great. If you have any colored paper, like construction paper, origami paper, or even things that come in the mail that you're planning on recycling, like advertisements, or posters, or newspapers, those could be really great for making art too. Also remember that you can find materials outdoors, which can be kind of fun. So there's leaves, there's branches, there's seashells, there's stones. Anything that you can find can really be turned into art. So we might have some lessons where you're going to go outdoors to go collect some things. Even just in your neighborhood or even in your driveway, you might find something really cool that you can turn into your projects. So now that I've explained the kind of materials that we're looking for, here's your first task. There's going to be 2 tasks this week, and you don't have to spend a whole lot of time on each of them, but I just want you guys to kind of get back in the groove of making art in case you have not been doing a lot of art lately, which is totally understandable. So the first project is to go down to the description box and opening the Google Forms. There's 3 different forms, one for kindergarten and Mrs. Slider and Mrs. Davis's classes, one for 1st and 2nd graders, and another for 3rd and 4th graders. So starting next week, I'm going to be making 3 different lessons for each of those groups. So I want to know which groups have certain materials. So please make sure to click on your grades link, go around the house, ask your parents if they can help find those materials. If you can't find it, don't worry, just don't mark it in the survey. And that way I'll know that you don't have those things, which is fine. So make sure that you go through the whole list, check everything that you have. There's pictures on there, but you could also, again, ask your parents or family members to help you out on reading those things or trying to find those materials. Once you find them, I like to have everything in my studio area, which I set up right here. I know that it's kind of a mess right now, but my job today is going to be to go through them and organize them. So if you are able to make a little spot for you, for your study space, where you have some of your materials, great, you can set it up. But if not, then make sure you put them away because we don't want to lose them and we don't want to make a big mess. So make sure you put them away when you're finished. Once you're finished with your scavenger hunt, please make sure you send your responses to me. And then your second task is to look through the list and pick 3 materials out of them. It can be paper, pencil, and eraser, those are 3. It could be cardboard, glue, and tape, that could be 3. Or you could get more involved and say, I want to paint, do oil pastels, and build a sculpture with cardboard on top of that. So you can get as involved as you want to. I would like you to pick 3 and combine those materials to make one finished artwork. So it can be anything. It can be a sculpture, it can be a painting, it can be a drawing, it could be abstract, it could be really anything you want it to be. So when you combine more than one art material or art mediums, which is another way of saying art material or style, is called mixed media, because you're mixing those mediums. So today we're going to be making a mixed media artwork out of the materials that you found from your scavenger hunt. And I will do my own mixed media piece in a second, and I'll do a time lapse of that and show you my finished example. So I hope you have fun with your scavenger hunt and making your mixed media piece. See you next week.
I decided to do a drawing of my favorite Pokemon. So if you know Pokemon, try and guess which one is my favorite and which one I'm drawing. I'm starting with a light pencil sketch. Remember to go light till you get it right. I'm going to start with my Pokemon, and then I'm going to also be adding a quote in the background, which I'll be sketching out as well. Now I'm going to switch to Sharpie marker, and I'm going to carefully trace over my lines. The last part of my drawing process is going to be to erase my pencil sketch. Now I'm going to be using my second art medium, which is going to be painting. Specifically for this one, I'm using watercolor paint. Remember that with watercolor paint, you're not scooping up the paint to use on your paper like you do with tempera paint. You have to get your paintbrush really, really wet and make a little puddle on top of your paint tray. And you're just soaking up that paint water and using that water to paint. That's why it's called watercolor paint. You're not going to scoop up the goopy paint. I am now layering more of the same color to show some shadows. Having some shadows and also light parts, I left the edges white to show that that's the shiny highlights. Here I layered some red for the cheeks, and now I'm moving on to the background. Here I'm experimenting with adding some salt to my background, which can create some texture in your watercolor paint. Also adding or layering some more of the paint on top to make some darker splotches and some lighter areas, and also using just the water to blend out those splotches. And adding some extra salt. And moving into my third art medium, which is oil pastels, I'm taking my white to add some details to the eyes here. Now I let the painting dry for a few hours and brush the salt off. And then I'm going back to my oil pastels, adding a little bit more details, like more highlights, which are the reflections of the light. I'm going to also be adding some shadows as well. And here's my finished mixed media piece of the Pokemon Ditto. I used Sharpie markers and watercolor paint and oil pastels for my 3 mediums. I am excited to see what you guys come up with. Thanks for watching.